Only alternative they have is Islam religion.
It's become that.
That's the problem. That's why I'm saying if we don't fight Islam, it won't fix the problem.
Why fight?
Every time they fail,
Here's
they're
the
just
question.
going to go to
Why
Islam.
fight? Why fight? That's
fight
the
can
key.
come in different ways. Soft way or hard way? What do you mean fight? I mean define that.
No, I'm asking you. I didn't say it.
Okay, so
what,
why
what
fight?
What do you mean? Yeah, why? Why fight? What do you mean fight?
Content over everything.
Rest time for Slavery originated from Middle East region, Egypt, and then Islam is all in the Quran right here. I have it all documented.
Slavery predates Islam by
Exactly, the pagan era, but Egypt.
Romans,
Exactly. But Islam was created in 7th century, and it did not abolish slavery.
That's true.
And it still put the term slavery in the book. And how can you allow this? I mean,
record this because he's talking.
so if I put slavery in the constitution, I mean, can we just be okay with it? No, right? So why?
I completely agree.
Yeah. So why are we still putting slavery this term in the Quran? And you talk about religion of peace, and even the whole Islam was not created by peace. Muhammad was a warlord. He was a warlord.
He was a trader first. He wasn't really a warlord.
He was traveling. Yeah.
When he was
He went around.
he was 40-something years old when he first became
Exactly.
Islam. So
Of
he was
course.
already a pretty old man. He had like a long white beard.
Right. Everyone has to learn. You can't be suddenly be a warlord, and you need skill. So he traveled around.
No, it's fair.
But the origin, how it was started, was by sword. He sit in the cave. He heard some voice, revelation, and then start rallying people around him. He created Islam and he just fight in the Medina with the pagan. He fighting the pagan Arab.
I'd have to dispute that. No, here's the thing. I do agree with a lot of your points. There are a lot of things that I personally find very distasteful when I read the Quran. But at the same time, there are a lot of misreadings of history. So to give you an example, the Prophet Muhammad never started a fight. In fact, he told his followers not to fight with the Kafirs who were torturing and subjugating them, and told them to leave.
That could be the case.
No, that's what we know.
Yeah.
And he left for a tribe that was, I don't know, several hundred miles away.
Yeah.
And mediated a conflict so that and in exchange for mediating the conflict, he would settle there. But then the Qurayshis went all the way to get into a fight with him. After he's like, look, guys, we had enough of this shit. We're going away.
But it's still fighting, right?
Yeah, but it was.
And that's why.
So I agree with you. So that initial stage, I would have to say, was peaceful.
Yeah.
What happened after is where I would have to agree with you. Is this expansionist policy and the whole jizya aspect?
Yeah.
And I would even say they weren't as effective as say the Romans and the Persians at the whole taxation thing, because they weren't very good at building roads and infrastructure.
Exactly.
But I'm partial. I half agree with you.
I get your point. I get your point. You like agree, but you also disagree with the starting point. You're saying it was peaceful and they were being oppressed, or that's why they fight back, right? That's what you're saying, right?
In the beginning, yes. Yes, but then there came a point when they expanded, and expansion.
But I want to go back to the peacetime when they start fighting. That's why I brought in the concept. I mean, the concept is like he started religion based on fighting back, based on fighting, killing. And if you look at Jesus, the story about Jesus, like he sacrificed himself, peaceful way. And you talk about story of Buddha, he fed his own flesh to tiger. So their religion is not external, not outwards. It's inwards. It's inwards. So if I have to sacrifice myself, I have to sacrifice myself. That's the concept. That's how it was started, But for Islam, is when they start fighting back with weapon. That's how it's formed.
But that's what they did in the beginning. They were sacrificing themselves, and then the enemy comes to you.
If Muhammad sacrificed himself, why is he still alive? He can't lead the war.
He passed away. He passed away.
He was fighting when he passed away.
No,
he was fighting. He was fighting.
No, where did you get that from?
From Quran and from the Central Mosque in London. They will have this.
I'm hearing this for the first time. I know that he died an old man in his bed. His children were killed fighting.
So if you're saying we have been reading different version of Quran or story of Islam, that means the Muslim trying to argue here, saying that they say Bible is corrupted because it has been modified. So the same thing is for Quran as well. It has been modified because you read a different version. I read a different version. Everyone has different versions. So Quran is as modified as Bible. It's corrupted.
I would absolutely second that. If I told you a story this week, are you going to repeat verbatim what I told to you 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, right.
And we're talking 1,000+ years. Are you trying to convince me that the story hasn't changed over time? I'm pretty sure it has.
I think
the fundamental issue that I have with this comparative aspect is like, no, Jesus did this, but the Quran says that. Is like, no, I can point out things in every religion that is pure nonsense. in every single, pick a religion, just pick one,
Yeah.
and you're going to find good things and bad things. The fundamental element here is what is the person doing. I can give a great guy a book,
Yeah.
and he'll do great things because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But I give it to a dickhead, he's still going to behave like a dickhead.
Exactly.
The faith itself has no distinction.
The issue is, why are there so many dickheads in Islam now?
That's a great question.
I come from Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah, and
why?
I'm from the Middle East. That's exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I point out every majority Muslim country is undergoing a lot of problems economically, financially, socially, you name it.
Yeah.
So is it Islam or is it the people?
I
That's
believe
the
it's
question.
Islam.
I don't think it is. I think it's a mix of the two.
It's a
Islam
mix.
is contributing to
Because
it.
Islam is a religion mixed with nationalism, with state ideology.
It depends.
It's like a political framework,
I'll give
political
you an
constitution
so-
in the whole Quran.
So here's the thing. I would say that's true of Saudi Arabia. I would say that's true of Afghanistan, possibly Iran. But then I look at a country like Egypt. Egypt's been a secular government since for a long time.
After Arab Spring?
Not before the
Yeah,
Arab
after
Spring.
Arab Spring, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's the
Exactly.
problem.
That's the
Middle
thing.
East, it's like the moment there's a power void, like the government was overthrown, the only thing that can take over is Islam.
Do you know
why?
why?
Why is that?
I'll tell you why. Because the governments in that part of the world have systematically undermined culture, have systematically undermined institutions, and the only institution that they can't undermine is the religious one.
That's why.
That's the only one they can't undermine. So what happens? People who observe corruption in secular institutions will automatically turn to the only alternative that they had, which is, guess what?
Islam.
Not only Islam, but an exaggerated version of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's the problem.
That's
man.
exactly what
you
the
look at China. They have this. There even is this story about CIA funding this religious group called Falun Gong.
Yeah.
You heard about that, right?
Yeah.
So
You see them in Chinatown. They're
I
sitting
saw
there-
them
yeah,
in
yeah.
Japan as well. They were protesting in Japan, Tokyo Street, protesting the Chinese government for killing Chinese in Japan. Do you see the irony in that?
Yeah.
So
It's pretty
Japan
weird.
killed Chinese, and the Falun Gong go to Japan and protest. But that's not the point. That's not the point. But I'm just saying the same thing happened in other part of the world.
Yeah.
But they could not take over. Why? Why? Is it because the foundation of the people are on different things? You know, for other part of the world, the foundation of the people, the roots, the mentality is not religious. But when it comes to Middle East, the only alternative they have is Islam religion.
It's
and
become that, correct.
That's the problem. That's why I'm saying if we don't fight Islam, it won't fix the problem.
Why fight?
Every time they fail,
Here's the
they're just
question.
going to go to
Why
Islam.
fight? Why fight? That's
Fight
the
can
key.
come in different ways. Soft way or hard way? What do you mean fight? I mean, define that.
No, I'm asking you. I didn't say it.
Okay, so
what,
why
what
fight?
do you mean? Yeah, why? Why fight?
if you-
What do you mean fight?
If you don't fight Islam, how can you defeat this ideology? That's the simple way, you know. You have to resist this ideology that's spreading, that's killing people, ideas, cultures, and so
How
on.
so? Practically.
Practically.
Yeah, logistics.
So
how do you resist this ideology?
So the first step is to kill the narrative that whenever we speak out against Islam, it's racism. It's not. It's not.
Are you sure about
Islam, like any other religion or democratic system or communism or capitalism, is a set of ideas that should be able to, you can mock it anytime you want.
that? Is Judaism racism? Is
I
Christianity
agree.
racism?
That's why I told a joke just now. What if a Hitler, a chosen one, and a Muslim walk into the pub? What happened? You know. And the joke is, they all scream at each other, "You are racist! You are racist!" All pointing a finger at each other. You know why? Because Hitler, from his perspective, he's saying, "I'm a patriotic person. I want to defend my country. So out Jew." And the Jew, I mean, the Jew is like, "We are the chosen one." That's fucking racist, man. How can you be the chosen one? And then when it comes to Muslims, like they label people as believer versus non-believer. That's also another segregation. So they're all racist. That's why I put this joke. When Hitler, chosen one, and a Muslim walk in the pub, what happened? They all scream at each other and just accuse each other as racism. So you see, but if you are a white person, when you speak like this, you'll be accused of racism, even though this is
No, I can
this is
tell
real
you.
thing.
I can tell
You can't speak like this, you know. They will just frame you as racist. They will try to silence you. So that's why I'm here to break this narrative. It's not really racist. History is history. It's not a moral book. History is just a set of factual or non-factual, but data for you to consume and come with your own judgment, you know. It's for you to learn and assess and analysis. That's all about history, because nobody is innocent in history. That's why I'm to fight. We have to fight. First step is to fight this narrative, and second step, once we can engage and talk about this problem, then we can solve the problem. If we can't even talk about problem, how can you solve the problem?
So we are talking about the problem.
In Speaker's Corner only, unfortunately.
Well, no, there are, but I agree with you. There
Yeah.
are so many political
Just look here.
issues
Just
in that
look in
region.
UK. If let's say you are extreme left wing, you're very liberal, but you're against Islam. Who can you vote? Who can you vote for in the group, in the party? There's none, right? That's why people go to Britain first. That's why people go to Fort Britain or Tommy Robinson. A lot of people. But luckily, there's one guy who I don't think he's involved in politics. David Starkey, he's a gay person.
So
he
here's-
speaks like he speaks.
So-
he
so
can articulate a lot better.
We've gone a very long distance from the original
Yeah,
conversation.
it is relevant.
Well, no, actually, I want to go back a step,
Okay.
and you're talking about resisting the
Yeah,
ideology.
because there's
do you
no
know why,
alternative now.
Do you know why people in the Middle East reject that idea?
Because of
You think it's because of religion?
it's no, everyone is not innocent. I mean, Iran. Let's talk about Iran. I suppose where you want to talk about.
No,
is,
I don't want to talk about Iran specifically, but
Okay.
as a general idea.
So it's like
so
there's
can I-
this
can I-
distrust.
Yes. Do you know why it's there?
Yeah, because everyone has betrayed everyone.
Okay. So
The
is
West
it,
has betrayed
is
Middle
it
East in the past as well.
unreasonable to be skeptical of saying we are resisting
course.
and want to correct your ideology? The first answer is who the hell are you to
Exactly.
correct us?
That's why
and
I'm here.
Likewise,
That's
it's
why
the
I'm here.
reverse is
I'm not
true.
from the West.
And neither am I.
Yeah.
But I can't
So-
stand for either side.
So
that's the thing.
that's why I'm here to speak out and say, stop looking at the West. Look at the East.
Why?
Because there's only one Earth. If you only look at focus here, you're missing the whole concept, the whole
I would
connection.
say look at both. I would say that.
Yeah.
I would say there
look
are
at
issues
everything.
on both sides.
Look at everything.
Yeah,
At the moment, it's just Middle
let me give
East.
you an
The
example.
moment, it's just Middle East and West.
Okay.
They just forget about the Japan, Korea, and China, and Vietnam, all those Singapore, Malaysia. They forget about this place. They only just Islam against the West. It's always Islam against the West. Why? Why?
That's their limited
That's why.
point
That's
of
why you have to look at the whole big picture. Then you can figure out the answer very
let
easily.
Me give you an example that might actually aid you in your thinking. If you think about shit, what was I going to say? I can speak very clearly about Egypt because I grew up there and I've seen
Yeah.
the way things evolved. And back in the 1960s, when my mother was in medical school, there was only 2 veiled girls in 100,000 students. Only
Yeah.
2 girls wearing
Yeah.
the veil. The average length of a skirt in Cairo was up to here.
Yeah.
This is in the 60s
I
and
read
the
about
70s.
those as well. I heard
Now,
about those.
here's the interesting thing. What happened since the 60s and 70s? Egypt went into 3 wars. There was the when they first basically took the Suez Canal, reconstituted the Suez Canal, and that's when the United States and Britain and Israel fought a war there, and then it fought a war against Israel, and then it fought a war in Yemen. It was 3 consecutive wars that completely emptied the budget of the Egyptian coffers. Egypt was a pretty rich country before
Yeah,
those
why
wars.
did they go to war with Israel?
Well, it's not just Israel. If you think about it,
Maybe it's about a book.
not actually. Israel had nothing. Actually, Israel went to war with Egypt first when Egypt was a monarchy, and that's one of the things that led to the Egyptian Revolution.
Is that true?
That Israel?
What I heard is the 6 or 7 days war, right? That's
The 7
days
day war. Yeah, that was in 1948.
Egypt, Jordan, Syria, all
I thought-
attacked at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Israel is like have to go on offensive, right?
Yeah, but Israel was not a natural offshoot there. These are people who came in from abroad and set up a country.
But if you
And-
believe in
and-
the book,
The English done the roadmap, it was.
Yeah.
And we gave Israel, I think, I can't be sure, we gave the Jews part of Israel and that,
part
Balfour.
of Palestine.
Yeah.
But then what happened is like the war started as soon as they crossed into Sinai. And at the time the king, the monarch of Egypt, was importing weapons from the British. And funny enough, the weapons would backfire into the soldiers, so they would have to have a rifle, and then and that's one of the reasons why the Egyptian revolution happened in 1956, is that the soldiers were fighting against the monarch because of bullshit like that. So anyway, what I
why
wanna-
are they fighting?
No, because again, the Israelis crossed over into Sinai.
it's blurred.
Sinai is Egyptian
That's
sovereign
why
territory.
religion is root cause. If you read
What
Quran,
does religion have
if you
to do
read
with that?
Quran, Israel belongs to Jew. It's in the Quran. It's in the Quran. But then that region, they're not okay with that.
I have to ask you an important
let's look at another part of the world.
Well, okay.
So you talk about Israel importing people, and that's why they fight, right?
Yeah.
But let's look at Malaysia and
Yeah,
Singapore.
let's look at Malaysia and
They import people from India and China.
Yeah.
Did they go to war?
I don't know. I haven't
They
read
did
enough
not go to
about the
war.
region.
They have some racial conflict,
Yes.
tension in the past.
Absolutely.
But it was a very small scale, and somehow they can come together and build a country together.
Yes,
so
but
why is it in
who-
Malaysia, Singapore, they
who
can do
did
this,
these
but not in
things?
Israel
Who did
and
these
Middle
things?
East? British. But before British, there were also this natural migration because of trading. Yeah. And there's a lot of history going on. I can't bore you with that, but if you want to look at it, Southeast Asia,
it's definitely
very
worth looking
there's
at.
a
But
lot
I
of
have
story
to
there.
dispute certain things. Is that okay? If you're talking about the migration of Jordanians and Ethiopians and Saudis to a specific area, I doubt a war would happen.
Yeah.
But over here, you're talking about Europeans who are not from the region, don't even speak the language, coming in by a foreign power without any consent, with none of it. But then you're talking about Malaysians, Indians, and Chinese people migrating to an area that they're originally from. And let's talk about another dimension here. Why?
But they have
is
a lot
there
of history context.
Yeah, there
Trading
is.
and
These
same
guys
for
don't.
same for me. They have.
Europeans in Palestine?
What is Quran based on? It's based on.
You tell me.
What is it? The Abraham religion. So Torah, Bible, and then Quran. So they have been a history. They have been living together. So why do you say
Not
this is
European.
a sudden?
No, because you're
Why do
talking
you-
about Russians and Polish people and Germans.
Yeah.
You're not talking about Middle Easterners. You're not talking about
Are
Iranians.
we talking about Israel?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
No,
They are
if
involved
you go to
in
Israel today,
They are involved.
you're
Yeah.
going to find more Russian speakers than people who speak Hebrew.
In where?
If you go to Israel today, you're going to find people who speak Russian more than people who speak Hebrew.
And we are saying Israel is American lapdog.
It is.
But there are
You
so many
find-
people speaking Russian, according to you.
Yeah.
So that means they are both controlled by
Because they
Russia
identify-
and America.
no,
But
I did-
what's
that's
wrong
not
with
what
that?
I said.
Yeah,
That's
what's
not
wrong
what
with
I
that?
said.
What's wrong with that?
No, here's
What's wrong with the language?
Here's what I want to get to. What I want to get
What's
to.
wrong? I mean, you know about Chinese language. The Mandarin is not even the real Chinese
Yeah,
language.
I know. It's a construct.
Yeah,
There's
this
how
everything's
many
so
dialects?
construct. So
Like
it's all
9?
about your ideas. What are you fighting for? And when it comes to Israel, it doesn't
For
make sense.
simple, here's the distinction. What you're talking about is essentially worldly boundaries that were so ancient Judea.
Yeah.
Ancient Judea. Yeah. Judea was in the borders of what we now know as Jordan, part of Sinai, and parts of Lebanon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Judea. That was
I
controlled
love
by the
Lebanon.
Romans. Okay, that's good to know.
Because they have a concept of mixing all religions.
Yeah.
There's this subversion of Islam that believe in reincarnation. I think it's called Druze.
The Druze, yeah. But,
Yeah, so-
but the Druze are a very insular sect. They don't
Yeah,
allow
so-
intermarriage. They
Yeah,
don't
so
allow. But here's
as long as they're minority, it's fine. I mean, Amazon.
But again, we're jumping ahead. What I want to tell you is that the state of Israel is a worldly construct. There's nothing Christian about it. There's nothing Islamic or even Jewish about it.
Everything-
Those borders were set by human beings for human men.
That's the truth.
purposes.
That's the
There's
truth.
this- and
Everything
here's-
is-
and
everything is
nations
world- it's-
evolve.
it's a social construct.
Nations evolve. Borders
Right,
change.
exactly.
The ancient Judea.
Right.
If you're talking about the Sumerians
That's
and
right.
the ancient
That's right.
Judeans, that's a completely different
That's
construct
right.
that was set up mostly by the Romans. It's not even
That's your
a natural
answer.
thing.
Your question, your
So-
explanation is the answer.
Yeah.
Everything was construct. So the thing is, we have to look forward. How do we move forward? If you're still stuck in the
No,
past.
some people are. Some
Yeah.
people, not everyone.
Yeah.
If you talk to the political entities in the Middle East, they're talking about integration. But they have. But here's the thing: you can't speak about
they
these things
sincere?
openly.
Yeah.
The Palestinians are. The people who are stopping them are the Israelis and the Americans.
Do you know why they're stopping? I mean,
Yes, the Israelis and the Americans have not held up a single item that they vowed for since Oslo. Since the 60s. Not
I
one.
watched the Oslo play as well. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But I do agree with the Jew. I mean, if they don't do this, they'll be wiped out.
No, they won't.
They will be wiped out.
Why do you think that?
Takia. The Muslim community just do takia and just look at every part of the world, how the Muslim ideology can take over easily. So it's all related. So just look at Palestine. They'll just say, oh, we're not Islam, we're not Islam. Look at that. When Donald Trump, the moment he announced that Jerusalem is the capital, the capital of Israel.
Yeah.
Look at how the whole Muslim community in the whole world react.
Yeah, what did they do?
So if I'm alone,
Yeah.
and all the Muslims treating me this way, I'm gonna go on offensive because
have a
the best
question
defense is on offense.
Okay, no, I have a
Look
question
at
for
the
you.
Great Wall. It's useless.
Here's a question for you. Just because a lot of people are shouting and screaming, is that action? Is that something that justifies you to take action?
So you're trying to summarize saying that the only threat posed by Muslim is just shouting. You believe so? That's where I
What have
disagree.
they done since that's happened?
Like I say, it's going back to this
name
ideology.
one
It's
thing-
evil.
No, again,
And I live among them.
Here's the thing.
And ever since Indonesia.
So do I.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear a lot of people
Yeah.
shouting and screaming, but when it comes to take action, they
Yeah.
can't do jack shit.
So
The
that's true.
Saudis are screaming and shouting.
Yeah.
The Egyptians are screaming
But
and
they
shouting.
flood you with
the
this.
Iranians
They
are
flood
screaming
you
and
with people.
shouting. Who's
with this,
fighting?
with this idea.
There hasn't been a single shot fired.
That's why I
Not
say.
one.
That's why.
since that
That's why I say
declaration was
oppression
made.
can come in two ways: the soft way or the hard way. Either
How
violent
is
or
it a-
non-violent.
How is it soft? The Muslim nations have no weapons, have no money, don't have any standing armies and have a shit record of fighting wars with Israel or anyone else.
Yeah.
Where's the hard and soft oppression?
So
If
are we
anything,
talking about
Israel-
in Middle East or here?
I'm talking about the Middle East. People can blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah all they
I don't know-
want.
I don't know fighting.
Words, you know, but not one shot was
Yemen,
fired.
Saudi, Iran, proxy war.
Yeah,
There's
with
this
Saudi and
constant-
Iran, not with Israel. Israel's just sitting
It's
there going,
the
like,
whole,
this is funny.
The
shit.
whole map is fighting each other's proxy wars, like supporting each other.
The Israelis aren't fighting.
They are probably involved in some
Where
proxy
is
war.
Saudi fighting Israel? On the contrary, the Saudis are actually pretty close to the Israelis because they both hate the Iranians.
Kind of, yeah.
So it's a pretty mixed
It's
bag.
a mix. That's why it's a mix. And why is it so mixed? Why? Again, it's all gonna go back to this.
The Iranians and the Saudis go back to this?
Yeah, everything.
How do the Iranians and the Saudis go back
I
to
mean,
this?
how can you
They're
fight?
both Muslim.
So how can you fight for the next step?
The Yemenis and the Saudis are both Muslim.
They are all Muslim, different sect of Muslim, and they are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Is that the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's because of politics, not because of the sects.
because of politics.
Shia have
Yeah.
lived in Saudi
and because
Kuwait
of politics.
and all those. Yeah.
And people are still, when I see this for, and they still do not try to liberate themselves from this ideology. If they free themselves from Islam,
Okay.
then they can start the real fight, you know.
Okay.
If let's say we go back to the Stone Age and try to introduce democracy, it's not going to work. People has not even have a proper house,
ask you
a
another
society.
question
There's
now.
no society, so it's always about society, right? So if they don't even have the foundation, how can they fight the next fight?
Well,
So
liberate
that's why
themselves
it's a
and go
problem.
to what?
That's why it's a problem to mix Islam with politics. That's why it doesn't work. It's a 7th century ideal, just like Christianity or whatever religion.
All right.
But now it doesn't work anymore. You should remove that.
I got
abolish
that.
Yeah.
I got where you're coming from, and I can't say I completely agree. I agree with parts
That's
of what
fine,
you're saying.
that's fine.
But you're saying liberate from the ideology. Liberate to what? What is the end result, in
I-
your opinion?
The idea is to be less religious. Don't put all eggs in Islam. What is the special thing about democracy? Democracy is like a flourish of ideas. Yeah, it's all about flourish of ideas. So everyone can speak different. It's all about individualism. So the concept of democracy is you don't put all eggs in one basket. You put a different basket. But when it comes to Islam and politics, it's like you put everything in Islam. So the moment someone hijacks the basket, you're fucked. You're screwed.
So there is an interesting idea. So you're saying you want them to adopt more secular and more democratic ways of doing things, correct?
Democratic also can be like a buzzword. But so what I'm saying is to be less religious. That's for sure. And
How so?
not like Islam now. Today, Islam, you can't. Every religion has been mocked, but when you mock a Muslim community, they start having suicide bombing and stuff. Have you heard about Life of Brian?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
I saw it in Egypt,
in a
in
Christian,
the cinema.
Yeah, exactly. In a Christian
nothing
country,
going
in a Christian country, they mock about Christianity.
Yeah.
Jesus for like 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And where is the Muslim community mocking themselves?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
All right. So so if you go back to Britain 300-400 years ago, you're talking about a deeply religious, fundamentalist society. That's
Yeah.
300. It took
That's why
Britain.
they fight and
Yeah,
change.
it took Britain 600 years. 600 years.
Internet.
To get out of that, to come into what we call today, and still today, Britain is still a deeply religious nation.
Political
church-
power, maybe somewhat, but
Church and politics are. Here's the interesting thing: the church and politics in Britain are like this, But it's a very secular country. You go to
Yeah.
the United States, the Constitution specifies that
Believe in
religion.
God.
No. The Constitution doesn't. It's actually one of the more secular constitutions in the world.
Yeah.
But you have more Americans
it's
believing in
based on a
angels.
Magna Carta, right?
No, that's Britain. That's not
Britain.
the U.S.
Okay,
the U.S.
okay.
is another thing, which is a secular country, but they're more religious in the U.S. than they are here in Britain.
So when
And
you say religious, how religious? I
In the
fail to see
the
that.
Americans?
Yeah, they are a very diverse society. They have religious people. They have very secular people. So
Because it's
and
a
they have
large-
people that
large
are
area.
guns like conservative. So it's a very mixed. It's like a wild wild west in America. So if you
No,
tell me
it's
the,
not.
if you tell me the whole religion,
If you're going to take a survey of the number of adults, who
I don't believe in
it-
survey in the exact terms.
Really?
I mean, yeah.
What do what
If
then?
you
How-
want to
how do
believe,
you measure?
if you want to talk about survey, let's look at the terrorism bombing.
How do you?
Then Islam is problem. It's like, end of story. We don't have to discuss anymore, right? That's why don't talk about stats. Let's put on the ground
No,
level.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to talk about statistics, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to agree with you
Yeah.
that surveys in the Middle East
It's just a
do
guideline.
produce-
Just a guideline.
Yeah, it's a guideline, but
Yeah.
it's,
Look
you
at
have to
how
start
Brexit
somewhere.
happened. There was a lot of poll, a lot of statistics. Oh yeah,
So
we're going
how
to
do you
remain. And
measure-
what happens? Like
how
Brexit
do you
happened.
measure how do you measure the religiosity of a society?
So yeah, that's why it's all like a social construct. It's how your environment, how your experience. everyone speak, and then you somehow build up this thing. That's
So
how.
it's completely subjective. If you're
It
living,
can be, it can
so
be.
You travel to New York, you don't see any religion at all, but then you travel to Arkansas,
That's-
and everyone's
that's-
like God fearing. I believe in Jesus.
That's how most
And
of us come to our opinion.
is-
It's
and,
not
and you
the
don't
truth.
think that's flawed?
It's flawed, but that's human thing. That's why ground level is important as well. It's not a 100% flaw. I mean, nowadays all we look at is the statistic, the internet, the phone. We ignore the ground level. You can imagine,
statistics.
yeah, and imagine if your whole concept is based on just this data,
Yeah.
and again someone just hijacked this basket, and you're screwed. Your whole
Isn't that the idea,
narrative.
though? That's the whole point of data.
We have to be evidence-based, right? I know, I get,
that is evidence.
exactly.
When you have
but
data-
statistic is not 100% true.
Yes, it is.
It's not. How do you come with a statistic? They actually go and interview everyone in the U.S.
No, they can't.
It's like a formula algorithm
but
and so
it's
on, right?
better, but that's better than your
Could be better,
subjective
could be better,
opinion,
could be
isn't
better.
it?
But the thing is, a lot of people don't even know whether they are really religious or just culturally religious. If you talk to a lot of British today, they are just culturally Christian. They are not really Christian, 100% Christian. They go to the church every Sunday, pray every day, decide the next to bed, read the Bible. How many actually still do that? So if you talk about that, I think there was this statistic. You want to quote statistic? So I think there was this in the whole Scandinavian or even the whole Europe. I think there's about 44% of atheists or free thinker or agnostic people, and not really Christian anymore. And that's a high number. That's a high number, 44%.
True, but then you go to Poland and they're 90% Catholic and deeply so. And you go to
they
Hungary
just call
and you
themselves.
go to Romania.
That's a reaction. That's a reaction. Cause and
Actually,
effect.
if you look at the protests that they had a couple
Yeah,
months
I have
ago,
to say, I met
those are pretty scary
yeah,
protests.
from
Those are
Eastern
Catholic,
European, country, yeah.
Those are Catholic protests
could be.
against Jews and Muslims
Yeah, could
in
be.
Poland.
I would
So
not.
that's-
I would not deny that. So that's why you say it's like you see. Even you look at the Europe, you have this part and this part so different. And you talk about US, it's like the US is like kind of like Europe. You know?
But
It's so diverse. It's
But
so
I'm
diverse.
citing your
You just
way of
answered my
thinking.
question.
No, but I'm citing your way of thinking. I'm saying I look at statistics
Yeah.
and accept that statistics are imperfect. You can't possibly interview every
That-
human being.
I agree.
But they give you an objective point, and they say
If
the
you tell me you
assumption-
actually agree, that's why I told you the statistic of 44%. But I don't want to use that as a judgment, saying that I just sit in a nice chair in Starbucks and just read a statistic and come here and say
Yeah.
Islam is bad. Islam is bad. I'm not reading statistic. I grew up in a Muslim environment and then I read statistics as well. I read the news, everything. I'm exposed. Listen to Muslim prayer 5 times a day. So I'm not here to tell you just stats. In terms of stats, we already agree. 44%. That's a good numbers, right?
Yeah.
So I have stats. I have ground level experience. So we agree.
Okay,
we
that's
actually
fair.
agree.
I can work with
We
that.
actually agree. Just that
Okay.
we came a long way to like talk about it, explain, define, and yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Elaborate.
I can get with that.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Thank
Cool.
you for your
What's
time,
your name?
bro. Mostafa.
Mustafa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you?
Tan.
Tan. Nice to meet you, Tan.
Color of my skin. Try to remember that. You can be racist against my
I-
name, but if you remember me, you're not racist.
Let me show you something. Does that look very different to you?
You go to America, it's yellow, man. Come on. I'm black and white, and then you go to America, it's yellow.
Hey,
and
I'm a white guy back home, and I'm a black guy here. What is that?
yeah. It's funny world. Funny world. Right.
Tan, nice
talking
talking
to
to
you,
you, man.
Mustafa. Right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Cheers. Hands are hurting, man.
Yeah, I need to grab a key.
From your
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen. COE. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky YG. I just listen to COE. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky Man. Man, just listen to COE. Man, just listen to COE. Man, just listen to COE. If you see me in COE, consider over everything. COE.